Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers Podcast, a podcast where Kev freaks out over stuff that really doesn't need to be freaked out about, and we all just placate him and go along with it, because he's glorious. I am Angelus de Mortiel, joined once again by GloriousKev, who may or may not...
Praise them both!
Xaiphen is also here.
Yes, on the 7th at 7.
Actually, well, no, it's the 1st at 7. So, in 6 days, Xaiphen will be here. In the meantime...
speaking from the future.
Yes, in the
With
meantime...
the backward sevens, though.
Yes. Yeah, they are backwards. That is great. In the meantime, Lila Rose is also with us as well.
Good evening, mayflies.
Yes. So, God, you'll have to excuse me, guys. It's like 90 degrees in my office. I've got space heaters right next to me, so it's always great. I'm, I have a gentle fan blowing. Xaiphen, stop mirroring yourself. You're not in the mirror universe. That's not how any of this works.
That was magic. It's magic.
Xaiphen's busy messing with his webcam and turning himself backwards because that is...
I was just fixing it.
That is ultimately what Xaiphen does for fun. He Xaiphens things up.
As long as he doesn't Xaiphen his audio again like he did before the podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's just standard. But in the meantime, though, we do have loads of fun. Let's not do that. Kev is already starting to make us not family friendly. In case any of you guys weren't aware, we're not a family friendly podcast. We like to swear a lot because, and Kev also likes Razor, and Razor is of course not family friendly either. They're
more family friendly than Epic.
Yeah.
Hey, but Sweden Derp likes us. He liked our tweet. Well, he liked Rose's tweet. It made Rose feel dirty.
Yeah, I needed a fucking shower after that.
So should we tell that story? Should we tell that story real quick? It's a good story.
Go for it, Kev. Tell that story.
So we were basically on Twitter. We're talking shit about Tim Sweeney, doing what we normally do, being toxic and everything. But Rose, being innocent Rose, she's post gifts. And eventually Tim Sweeney likes one of her gifts. Now I took this as a moment to say, okay, what should we say to Tim Sweeney as a group? Should we make demands? Should we talk more shit to him? And ultimately it ended up being we told him that our gifts are 6-month exclusives.
And then I said something about your exclusivity doesn't matter to a pirate, so...
Yeah, we did that.
That was fun shit.
Mm-hmm. Because we will pirate your shit.
So it sounds like the consensus from chat is that they didn't believe any of that happened. So
Mort, I need you to share those screenshots.
Nope.
Oh, and all of that Twitter shit happened because Mort got bored. Because he was waiting for XCOM 2 to install.
Yeah.
So I now people can make fun of me because I didn't have War of the Chosen for XCOM 2. Yes, you all are welcome to make fun of me. I know I should have bought it like 20 years ago when it came out because obviously it was an amazing DLC. That was the consensus from literally everybody in the universe. But I was lazy, didn't feel like buying it. But it kept going on sale over and over again. So I'm like, fine, I will buy War of the Chosen. So I finally did.
How much did you pay for it?
What was it, 15, 20, something like
That's
that?
not a bad price.
No, it was either
I
50 or 60% off.
Touch it.
Yeah. I thought about getting the other DLC, but honestly, I think I got the Legacy pack for War of the Chosen, but that was it.
I mean, considering I bought the DLC when it like 6 months after it came out and still haven't touched it, you're doing better than I have.
Well, mine was mostly laziness.
Oh, mine is just playing other games. Like, I've been caught up in Diablo 3 again this week. I love Diablo 3. Now I love Diablo 3. I didn't love it at launch.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and obviously now I'm stuck on another playthrough of XCOM 2, where I am.
That's a great game.
Yeah,
it's a great game. Play on.
Especially with the Long War mod.
Well, Long War I don't think works with War of the Chosen, so it's one of
Didn't,
the
no, they added Long War. To
No,
the game, didn't they?
so I was playing my last, I want to say, 15 or 20 hours of playing XCOM 2 was Long War 2. That's all I was doing. Which, by the way, after getting used to Long War 2 and then going back to vanilla War of the Chosen, I'm like, there's so much missing. I was feeling genuinely left out. I was like, but wait, where's this class and where's this mission type and that sort of thing. So needless to say, it was kind of a little bit off-putting at first, and so yeah, I had to readjust. But they do have some other new classes at least. The Templars are kind of interesting. Obviously, everybody else in the universe knew about this already, so I'm not really saying anything groundbreaking or new or.
Oh no, I still haven't played War of the Chosen. I haven't played XCOM 2 in a minute. So like
You really
I've been
should, man.
everything. Well, you know how I got with Total War. Let's put it this way: in like 4.5 months, I put 100 hours into Total War,
Yeah.
Warhammer 2,
Mhm.
and last weekend I put about 30 hours into Three Kingdoms.
I mean,
so, and then I've been playing Diablo 3 all week.
I mean, let's
So,
talk for a
and
minute
I
about
put
how
like
many
6
hours
into
that I.
Civ last week.
What am I at? Am I at 400 hours on Total War
Something
Warhammer
like
2?
Child's play.
Something like
Child's
that.
play.
Well, that doesn't count when you only play one game for 8 years.
Yeah, Xaifen, how many games do I have 400 plus hours into versus your one game of 2,000 hours?
Some of those games I've had the
Just
same
two?
number of hours into. Morrowind was probably about 70% of what you put into it, but it was way up there.
I have like 3,000 hours into freaking Morrowind. That's been a minute. Like I no life that. That was college time. I didn't sleep. You know, I slept like once every 3 days, maybe playing that game.
Man, you had time to game in college?
Adderall, man.
My first go around in college, I didn't have no time to game. My second go around, I did.
That's your own fault.
Oh no, I was busy. I had to work. I had girlfriends. I had schoolwork. I was busy.
See, that's what's up. 280 hours into Team Fortress 2. That's what's up right there. I can't do that much into PvP games. I for some reason I noticed that I don't have a huge amount of hours in any PvP game historically.
I've put a lot of hours into Modern
Halo
Warfare
2. Halo 2 back in the day.
But yeah, Halo 2, 3, Modern Warfare 2, and 3. I've probably got close to 200 hours in each of those.
Yeah,
Or at least 200 hours in each of those 4 games.
I'm kind of the same way too. Like most time when I play COD, I'll get like 20 hours out of a COD maybe in multiplayer.
Yeah.
And then I usually put it down.
Since Modern Warfare 3, that was the last PvP I played. It's been like at most 40 hours into a PvP. I think Overwatch, I may have just barely hit 40 hours on it before I dropped it.
I think I got close to 200 out of Overwatch.
I think I played.
I went hard on Overwatch.
I played maybe 4 hours of Call of Duty Ghosts, and maybe an hour of what was it? Which one was it? Was it Advanced Warfare?
I get
or
the
Infinite?
feeling
I can't
Rose has
remember
got
which
us
one.
all beat since she's into the Memorpicos.
She has about 10,000 hours into Eve.
Yeah, I do that.
25,000 hours into Elite Dangerous.
She's playing Eve right now.
Yeah, she's playing.
No, I'm playing Stardew Valley. Thank you very much.
There's another 10,000 hours, easily enough. See, obviously, Rose. It is the curse of the fourth member of this podcast. Whatever it happens to be, they're always gaming while they're on the podcast. Travis did it. Jeremy did it. Like... Joe was on Reddit, but that's kind of like a video game to some people. So.
I tried to do that.
I mean, I've always been on Twitter.
Audio.
Yeah,
I've never denied that I spend like half the podcast on Twitter, but I'm sharing links and posting memes.
Yeah, but
this is like the first podcast where I've actively really gamed for any period on the podcast. Like the one time I was playing Overwatch, or not Overwatch.
Don't play Overwatch.
Well, in fairness, you know what?
Sorry, that's an inside joke with Xaiphen and I.
When we had Travis, we did not have any gaming going on because Travis would not game.
That's right.
His computer couldn't handle the podcast and gaming at the same time.
Yeah, because he had a laptop. He could play Terraria, but not be on a video call.
Not while podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was just all the women he was hiding.
Uh-huh.
Every so often you see a little blonde hair pop up in the camera.
There was some stuff going on in that room. There's something going on. We never quite sussed that out, but there was anyway.
I miss Rachel.
Rachel was
great.
was one of the best unofficial additions to this podcast.
She was great.
But we're reminiscing about stuff. Let's talk about some stuff that's new. Let's talk about some stuff that's exciting.
Rising!
I think
by the way, Kev, could you lead to the side and show us what how awesome Ryzen is? Go ahead,
this is Intel. This is all Intel stocks behind me.
Go ahead and lean to the side for me, Kev. Just go ahead and show us what you're hiding behind you.
Can't do that, sir. Can't do that.
If you guys watch Kev's camera,
he put a Ryzen CPU back there.
What?
But truthfully, this is what's happening to all the investors for Intel right now. They're trying to get insurance fraud on their houses because they're losing all that money from Intel after their stocks went down this week. So they're just burning their houses down, trying to make up for lost cash.
I will note before we get into talking about GOG Galaxy, one thing I will note is that I do definitely agree that Ryzen has definitely put out a competitive offering. Like $500 for something that Intel has previously charged upwards of $1,500 for. That's how you fucking compete.
It is.
Yeah.
They're
putting the pressure on, and the IPC gain on their latest one is pretty impressive. I've been making jokes about their marketing strategy recently because, like, I immediately thought of Bruce Almighty. I'm free on the 7th at 7.
Yep.
But that's why all the 7s.
Yep.
Because they're really milking that 7 nanometer deal going on there, which is it is kind of a big deal, but well, it's not. I'm still gonna make fun of it.
So freaking Intel's still struggling with 10 nanometer.
They were supposed to have 10 nanometer 5 years ago.
Yeah, they were.
Allegedly, they're having 10 nanometers come out this fall. I'll believe it when I see it.
Bullshit.
This fall, 5 years from now.
I still want to know, why is Intel re-releasing basically the same CPU again?
Because
the 900KS.
Oh yeah, no. Let's.
Which has been memed. Keep spending.
See, that's my thing. Is that now? Full disclosure, I have an i7 7700K in my desktop right now, and I actually like it. It's been a great processor. I actually have very much enjoyed it. But whenever I saw that 9900KS, I was like, come on, fucking Intel, what are you doing? It's like, hey, here's another top tier, premium grade enthusiast chip that probably cost $1,000 plus. Nobody fucking wants that. They want that sweet spot between $250 and $500. That's the prime market for CPUs. For gaming grade CPUs.
And that's the thing, is you cross a barrier on which you can peak out on your focus performance versus multitasking capability. That's where I'm running into a bottleneck on mine, because I got too much crap running in the background. My 4th gen i7, which is still powerful for how old it is, it's great at solitary tasks. But as much stuff I have going on my computer, all in the background, it starts struggling with that a bit, and that's where I'm jealous of people running Ryzen 7s.
Now, and while we're talking about this, let's not just put this on Intel, because NVIDIA has the same problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're charging you through the goddamn roof, and then wondering why. Like, they're going to lose market share to AMD just because nobody wants to pay $1,000 for a fucking graphics card,
Yep.
or worse, pay $200 for a trash tier graphics card. Well, I shouldn't say trash tier, but something that would have been like a 750 or a 950 or a 1050 in previous gens that would have cost like $100-$150. Now you're paying upwards of 200, 250
for them.
And that's
even though the people are not buying those top tier ones, that what they're buying is the mid tier ones. They're looking at like, well, AMD has nothing on top end, so I'm going to buy Nvidia, even though I'm only paying $200 for the graphics card,
Which,
and AMD's offering.
It's the whole argument that people make when they say, "Oh, Nvidia better," and I always say, "Well, it depends on what you're spending." People look at like, "Oh, like, well, AMD doesn't have anything that compares to the 2080 Ti, so Nvidia it must be better." But you're only spending 1060 money, so it doesn't matter. At that price range, AMD is usually better. Usually.
You know, and that's something that you see a lot. Whenever you have a good, like whenever you have a stagnant market, inevitably innovation declines, right? So the new exciting shit tends to come less and less often. Prices go up for less value every year over year, and that's kind of what's happening with the PC hardware market right now. Is that the Intel and Nvidia have kind of been just relaxing for so long that they're like I said, you know, Intel or AMD is now releasing a 7 nanometer chip, whereas Intel has been struggling to get 10 for the past several years. So that's just something that's kind of, to me, a little bit fascinating. Is now what I want to see, and to be fair, I don't want AMD to supplant Intel and put Intel out of it. No, I want Intel to now say, oh shit, we actually have to work, which they kind of have, right? Whenever Ryzen first came out, that kicked Intel in their ass, and now all of a sudden their i3s went to quad core hyper threaded. Their i5s went to like maybe 4 to 6 cores. They all of a sudden pulled out some better quality CPUs.
There is actually demand in the market, in the consumer market, for higher core counts. You know, that dual core is no longer cutting it on a lower end for most people, because there's a lot of stuff that runs multitasking. Even on the average user, they'll have a lot of stuff going on in the background. And gamers who want to stream or anything else like that, the core counts do matter. The thread counts matter.
Right. Quad cores, you're not streaming on a quad core anymore.
Another
Like,
thing
that's difficult. I was struggling earlier this year trying to play Intel and the Division on a quad core, or not Intel, Anthem in the Division.
I mean, technically, I have a quad core, so.
Well, you have a quad core with hyper threading. Remember, I had that 7600, so mine
also is clocked higher, I think, too. So
it is clocked a little bit higher.
The i7s are clocked higher.
I think, but I think it's that hyper threading that really helped you.
I also
in a lot of games where I didn't have.
To be completely fair, I also got a very good bin for my chip. I can stably overclock mine to 5 gigahertz, and it still keeps some relatively generous temperatures to it. So I actually have a good quality 7700K. I have it only overclocked to 5 or 4.5, but that's just because, you know, I don't need to try to push things. I'm not an extreme overclocker. I just want a little bit extra. But the point is that
I didn't get so lucky.
Yeah, not that is
My 76. I couldn't get nothing. I couldn't get barely nothing. I think I got like 0.2.
The i5s, you're not going to run into as much variance on the silicon lottery as you do with the 7s.
Yep.
But like another thing people aren't really talking about a lot, that AMD kicked Intel's ass in, because there's, you know, taking CPU market share both in enterprise and in consumer, is Intel is looking to branch out a little bit more, and they went back and revisited their GPU option. And they're working on, you know, introducing discrete graphics into the market, so they will actually have a 3-way competition supposedly by next year.
Which I'm all
what's
for.
Interesting, talking about competition, we said Mort mentioned a little bit ago about innovation. RTX, I think, is Intel maybe or Nvidia maybe possibly trying to innovate. Is it something that people want? No, not right now.
And you know,
it is and it isn't. I
don't think it's worth the upcharge.
NVIDIA's innovated with it, but the problem is their innovation was targeted more toward AI in its original development. They were trying to find consumer grade use for it, and that's where the real time ray tracing and DLSS is coming in.
Well, let's be honest here. Let's be honest. Those kinds of innovation, and this can be expanded to a lot of hardware tech. Hardware tech is largely funded, like innovations in hardware tech is largely funded by the enterprise sector. Most people don't realize that. They think, oh, they see an RTX 2080 Ti is overpriced and no one's going to buy that. The truth is that NVIDIA is still selling Teslas like fucking hotcakes to companies that want to get into machine learning. And Teslas cost a fuck ton more than a 2080 Ti. I think they're like $5,000 a piece or some shit like that.
Yeah.
That's the cheapest ones.
That's the cheapest ones. They go upwards of 10 or 15,000 per card, and people are buying those 2, 3, 4 at a time. And that's just for one stack. I've seen server stacks that have 20 fucking Tesla cards in them. It's insane. I don't even want to know how much those setups cost. I know it's easily in the hundreds of millions. And that's the thing. That's what's funding a lot of that innovation. And I agree with Xaiphen that they're essentially just trying to translate that to the consumer market so they can make some kind of cost benefit to consumers and sell it.
Introduction of HBM memory into the graphics cards, it first went into their enterprise grade graphics first, before it came out originally with the Fury and then later the Vega and the Radeon 7.
Yeah.
Now, and here's kind of my thought when we're talking about the innovation too. I don't think that you can upcharge that to consumers and keep them interested. If they would have kept RTX prices, let's say the same prices that they would have, like I think the 900 series was a great price series. I'm gonna go with the 900 series or 9000s. If they would have priced them there and said, "Hey, we're adding RTX as an added bonus," everybody probably would have loved NVIDIA, even if the features were still implemented in games the same way they are now. It's like 3 games that use it almost a year later.
Yeah, and to be clear as well, with when the 900 series, one of the things that I thought was that made headlines, that made ripples with how affordable the 970 was.
The 970 was a beast. I rocked mine for 3 years.
Previous to that, like the 70 grade, like the 770, the 670, and so on, were like $100. They were a $450 grade card, if I remember correctly. I may be slightly off on that, but with the 9 series, it dropped to a $350 card.
I got mine for like $250, but I got
but it was on.
I think launch. We're looking at launch price.
Yeah, launch prices, but that was.
I got it like a couple months after launch, like 2 months after launch.
Maybe I had it a little higher. I can't remember. The
that
point
one
was.
No. I just caught a lick. I caught a lick, and I got and I think the person at Best Buy got confused when I showed them the price match. I think they actually priced me for a 960.
Hey, it works.
But that's their fault. I showed them the right thing.
My major point, though, is that drove a huge performance value benefit to consumers, and that's why the 970 cleaned house. It was years before like the 970 even. I think it still is probably in the top 5 of the Steam hardware survey for.
It's up there.
Yeah. I'm pretty certain it's still in the top 5 because everybody had one.
It was up there until the 1060 came out. The 1060 is the top one now, and it's been since it came out.
Yeah.
The 970, it's still in the top 10, but it's pretty low down there, just below the 1080.
So
it still has 2.69% of the Steam users. That's still a lot.
That is a lot for a now 2-3-year-old card.
No, that card came out 2014.
Jesus.
Fall of 2014. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it took years for that to drop out of the top spot. It was by far the most used card, and that's because it offered a great value for the money. Like a 70 grade card for $250 to $350 was great.
Yep. But the only thing that knocked it off was the 1060. The 1060 knocked it off after a couple months. Yeah. But the 1060 is another beast of the same value. And
But
I'd even argue maybe the 2060 though. The 2060 I think is a little overpriced.
That's one of the things that hurt AMD the most is technically price per performance. What you got, the 480 was a better buy than the 1060. However, mining shortages that hits AMD a hell of a lot harder, and people are like, "Well, I want the 580, but I'm not going to pay $500-600 for it, so I'm going to get the 1060 that's only 20% more expensive as opposed to 200% more expensive."
Right. And right now, if you can get a 580 or a 570, those cards are incredible right now. My second PC that my kids play on has a 580 in it. Solid 1080p, 60 FPS card. They're playing most games at high or maxed out settings, getting that flawless 60 frames a
That's a
second.
funny thing. People don't realize what they did with the 500 series is NVIDIA shot themselves in the foot on their overproduction because the way they set up their shit, they had no way to rebrand and remarket it. But the 580 is a rebranded, overclocked. Yeah, it's a 480 that's refreshed and overclocked. So that their excess of chips when they started overproducing to compete with mining, they were able to actually rebrand that as a newer generation, whereas NVIDIA was not. They shot themselves in the foot as far as the ability to rebrand.
Yeah. Well, also it doesn't help that remember the mining happened right at like about a year after the 1000 series came out.
Yep.
The 580 came out shortly. Like I remember because it came out like right after me and Mort got our 1080s.
Yeah, like
and the mining got bad like 2-3 months later.
Yeah, months after we got our 1080s, the prices skyrocketed for the 1080, as I remember it, because I got mine for mine's an Asus ROG Strix, so it's kind of on the high end, and I think mine was like 550 to 600 whenever I got it, and then after
mine was 6. I got it, but mine's a gigabyte OC.
Yeah, but so mine might have been above 6. I can't remember. I know Asus Strix are typically
runs usually about $50 more on the mid upper
they're
tier.
usually kind of overpriced, to be fairly honest. But in any case,
they built their name up into that, but now they're starting to run into brand value syndrome.
Yeah, but in any case, though, but let's talk about the companies that are currently doing cool shit that are listening to what consumers want, as opposed to NVIDIA. GOG Galaxy. So GOG, the youngest child of the CD Projekt family, below CD Projekt Red, who is kind of a media darling. GOG sometimes doesn't get mentioned a whole lot because no one really talks about him a whole lot. Well, GOG came out, I think it was this past week. It might have been late last week.
It was early this week, like Monday.
Yeah. They came out and announced, I could just say 10 days ago, that would be easy enough. So it was the middle of last week, and announced the GOG Galaxy 2.0, which, as they put it, it's essentially they are taking, if any of you guys on PC haven't used it before, there's a program called Play Night that allows you to essentially import your games library into one launcher. It still requires those extra tertiary launchers where it needs it for DRM purposes, such as Steam. It'll have to launch the Steam application in order to check DRM.
It's the same effect as playing an Ubisoft game bought through Steam. It still has to run Uplay to run the game.
Exactly.
But essentially, this imports all of those games from those different services and has them in one interface. Play Night, on the other hand, while it looks good and it actually functions decently well, it is actually this goes a little bit further, because not only does it allow you to import those games from different services, it also tracks playtime, has its own achievements synced into the normal GOG service, like the achievements that you would get if you bought a game on GOG. From what I understand, it seems like it's going to kind of treat it as if you bought the game on GOG, link it into the cloud. I don't know if it'll do the cloud saves or not. That's maybe.
I think that's a gray area.
Yeah, it's a gray area.
Maybe because they don't take up an excessive amount of space, but as far as DLC or any other kind of cloud services, it's going to be a no on that.
Yeah, but it does have achievements, game time tracking, and then it also allows you to have your actual friends lists all conjoined into one place, which that to me is also a major thing, because obviously that's something I think Kev was railing Discord to do, because Discord frankly is in the perfect spot for that, as being the social
I was actually
platform.
railing Play Night. I use Play Night.
Yeah.
They have Steam actually integrated into there. And you can actually see your Steam's friends list and everybody on Steam in there. And I was like, why not Discord? Discord to me makes so much more sense, because people basically use Steam to say, hey, my friend's on, let's play a game. Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm more likely to go onto a Discord server where my friends are at, tag them, hey, let's play a game.
Yep.
And we'll jump into a chat channel and use it there. The only people I know that actually uses like Steam Party Chat and stuff are the people that don't know better, from what I've seen. Like everybody who knows what's up is using Discord, or maybe they're still on TeamSpeak or something.
Steam's trying to improve themselves on that, but they're still not.
They've tried to revamp their chat experience, but it's frankly, the thing is that, and the truth is any of you guys that have used other chat solutions in the workplace will realize that, well, Discord's actually not that unique, to be frank. It looks very similar to a lot of other similar Electron-based chat programs, like
Slack.
Slack.
Reminds me a lot of Slack.
Yeah, Slack, Ring Central, or what is it, Glip from Ring Central, both bear a very eerie, striking resemblance to Discord, except for they don't have a dark mode because they're fucking stupid. Sorry, had to rant there for a moment. Why don't you have a dark mode? Fix your shit. Anyway.
Everyone needs a dark mode.
Yes, because my eyes...
Modern resolutions, dark mode needs to be fully, complete optional on everything across the board.
Yes.
Facts.
It's my eyes will thank you when you actually fix your dark mode and have a good one. But in any case, the major factor on there is that it became so ubiquitous because it did have a nice, clean interface. Like, don't get me wrong, people will say, oh, TeamSpeak or Mumble or whatever had better audio quality, which in some cases I could agree with. But the truth is they aren't very friendly.
It's the package that matters.
Yeah,
the full package is what makes it.
Yeah.
And Discord's audio isn't bad. We're on a Discord chat right now.
Yeah.
Discord for the podcast. It's great.
Yeah, and it's always sounded pretty solid and pretty good. I mean, I think there might have been slightly better quality on Skype. The program that shall not be named, according to Kev.
Oh no, well, yeah. In fairness, I'm the one that rushed everybody off of Skype. I rushed us on the Discord to start the server. I'm like, hey, as soon as Discord came out, hey, let's get off here. Everybody was like, no. I'm like, no, this is that new shit. Mm-hmm. And then the minute they added the video chat voice, I'm like, let's try this shit out. We waited until they fixed it.
it was broke as hell.
It was pretty trash at first.
Yeah. And to be fair, it is still not perfect. That video chat is a fucking monster for resource use. Media, and let me be clear on here, it's not a Discord problem. It is an Electron problem. It's a Chromium problem. It has to do with the Chromium rendering engine, as I noticed, because Epic Games Store, also based on Electron, has horrible resource optimization. Slack does it. The Twitch app is notoriously bad for its resource optimization. It's just an issue with the Electron program framework, to be frankly honest, and it's something that bugs me a little bit. But that being said, back onto GOG Galaxy. The other piece that they did also announce on there, and this feels like this was a pretty pointed attack, they also went on to discuss their privacy policy and how they're very explicitly all about user privacy, and that they do not collect or share any of your data. And the moment that you disconnect any account from GOG Galaxy 2.0, any information from those services are deleted from both GOG, your computer, wherever they might be that are linked to GOG. It's deleted.
They delete you from existence.
They're
I felt a little Epic shade when they said that.
that was my thought. It
Epic.
seemed like that was pretty deliberately targeted at Epic, who was reading like config files from Steam in order to import friends lists, which from an engineering standpoint, that's bad juju, right? If I'm
have
an
an
engineer,
API for a reason.
exactly, they have a fully functional API. And like I said, I think I've ranted about it a bit before, but from an engineering standpoint, I don't believe there's any nefarious intent in them reading the config file from Steam. I'm pretty confident the reasoning behind it was probably laziness, more than likely. It was the quick and dirty way to do things because they just wanted to get it done.
I mean, that's been like the whole Epic Store experience, the quick, dirty, hurry up and get her done.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And while I've clarified to people that this is not a release product terminology, when I talk about minimum viable product is usually kind of a demo experience, if you will, that you deliver to a client in order to get their feedback on what they actually want from your team. Like rather than saying, okay, you want me to make a program for you. What do you want in this program? Well, they give you a rough sketch outline of what that program should be. You take your team back, you slap something together really quick, and you come back to them and say, okay, is this kind of what you're thinking of? You know, what features work, don't work, etc.
Effectively a pre-alpha.
Yes, it's a pre-alpha. It's a demonstration piece meant to gain feedback. That is what a minimum viable product is. It's an agile terminology, right? Of course, a lot of YouTubers don't fucking know this and have been misquoting it, and it drives me batshit crazy when they misuse this term because it gets people thinking whenever they hear minimum viable product, it changes the definition in their mind. Now they think that it's a bad thing. No, it's a great way to get something tangible in front of a client to get their feedback. That being said, the Epic Store, to me, from an engineering standpoint, strikes me as a minimum viable product that a team would deliver to me in order to get my feedback on what they want from a storefront, right? It's just got basic features. It's meant to kind of say, okay, do you like this UI? Does this interface work? What do you think about these experiences here? Because it has a lot of key features like the fucking shopping cart.
It's a feedback based, presentation that they're refusing to take any fucking feedback on.
Yeah. But in any case, though, GOG, on the other hand, has been apparently listening to the feedback that Epic has been receiving. See, that's a mark of a smart company is don't just listen to the feedback that's being delivered to your company. Look at the feedback that other companies are getting as well, because that might present opportunities for your company to undercut your competitor by delivering something that their customers want that they're not giving. And guess what? Epic wasn't delivering something. Hell, Steam wasn't delivering something on this front. And GOG was like, guess what? We're going to bring it.
That I've come to rely on Steam because of their controller input interface. It's for me, it's particularly the Steam controller, but that it works with almost any controller out there, any modern controller. But it can any game that you have in your Steam library, not necessarily Steam game, but like if it's a shortcut added to Steam, if you can make it play nice. It's very helpful if you're a controller-based player because it allows you more custom control on how things are set up. Say if the game does not natively support controller inputs or something else like that, you need to say you love your DS4, you want the DS4 to work on a certain game, but that game only works with Xbox. That's the value of the Steam input. However, Steam has other shortfalls behind it. For me, that's a huge bonus and necessity, but that's not going to be the case for everybody. And the biggest demand out there right now is, because there's so many launchers, there's so many game stores out there, is to have have it all condensed, have it all coalesced into one spot. And GOG is paying, or CD Projekt is paying attention to that, and that's what they're producing for people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the standpoint, Rose, were you able to read GOG's privacy statement on this?
No.
No.
Those things are a mile long.
Oh gosh, we have a Kev
See, I
Kev
was looking at
Jr.
it as, yeah, it's a bit. I think it's
Yeah.
it's a two-part deal, because you got to keep in mind this is a European-based company, so it's also probably involving the European Union's right to be forgotten sort of deal too. It's playing very nice with that sort of thing. But yes, they're taking advantage of that to throw down the gauntlet and smack Epic in the face with their own bullshit.
Yeah. And so essentially one of the things that they were, and unfortunately it's not in this article, is in their official statement. One of the things that GOG made clear is that on the privacy side is that they said, we're not in the business of collecting and sharing data with partners. We don't do advertisements. We don't do any of that stuff. So when we say that we literally have no reason to collect this data, it's kind of their cornerstone of what their privacy is. And they essentially, the only transmission of data is between your account and the other service that is being imported on there. They don't want any of that information. They don't need any of that information. That is one of the biggest.
Your data is
things on
yours?
there. Yes. But one of the biggest things on there, and that's why I wanted to get Rose's output, although Rose is emulating Kev on this podcast.
She's being glorious.
No,
Yeah.
it's
Hey, Team Glorious, high five, high five.
Those privacy.
No. I was
crappy
talking about just their
documents-
statement, right? So GOG just made that.
I did read their statement. I didn't read the actual privacy policy that
Gotcha.
they were.
No. What I was talking about is just in their public statement where they said that they don't want any of your data and they don't need your data type of thing.
Yeah, that was a direct smack in the face to Epic.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Swing Dirt.
Kev is just still really hyped that Tim Sweeney interacted with a conversation that we were on. After
we were
that,
shitting on him.
what you guys didn't see.
I think he's fanboying a little bit.
Yeah,
After
after that,
on Swing Dirt.
after
I'm glad that he's getting that shade. He
What
doesn't
you
get
guys-
praise.
what you guys didn't see.
Can
of
I get a fuck Tim Sweeney in the chat, please?
What you guys didn't see was in the private chat afterwards, he was like, oh my god, Tim Sweeney said something to us. Oh my god.
Now here's the thing. Mort has records of everything said in Discord. Screenshot that shit.
Yeah.
If I said it, show the screenshot. Show your receipt, sir.
You could have deleted it and I wouldn't have gotten screenshots of it. So
But you have a channel on Discord
forgotten.
where everything is saved. It shows edits. It shows deletes. It shows everything.
Kev just now has been recently given access to the audit log, and I think he's a little excited about that.
I've seen the audit log for months.
The really funny thing about all of that is I had access to it before he did.
Right.
And I wasn't part of the podcast yet. I wasn't even really active.
Oh, you and Xaiphen had it before I did, which was
Yeah.
kind of fucked up. I gave you more shit for it.
Kev was our chief moderator, so he was heading the mod team, whereas Xaiphen was heading the manager team, which consisted of him and Rose. And that way, I didn't have to do a damn thing. I could sit back and not have to personally micromanage my server.
What, you were properly delegating? Who does that?
I know, right? So whenever people would be like, "Oh, can we get this voice channel or that voice channel?" I'd be like,
Damn,
Rose
got
and
it.
Xaiphen's got it. And then I would just go back to not doing any work. And now you guys understand what it's being a CEO is like.
No, I don't.
Yeah, that's
It
true. You
depends
don't.
on what company.
I'm too poor to understand what being a CEO is like. And how many black CEOs do you know about? There ain't that many.
There are quite a few, and I've met a couple of them.
Like,
Have
there's
you?
some CEOs that have
Yeah,
got
I never see them.
excessively micromanaging on their shit. Like Steve
Sweeney.
Jobs was one of those.
Tim Sweeney, as I understand it.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Steve Jobs.
Chris, the guy from Star Citizen.
Oh yeah.
Chris something or another. I can't remember his last name. That guy apparently is horrendous about micromanaging. Yeah.
But like
That's
that's
why
a
they can't
smaller.
produce
He's
the
got a
quality
smaller, focus of encompassment as opposed to like you look at.
He's running a
Steve
team of
Jobs
like
had,
400
quite a branch.
developers. So it's not. It's small, but it's not.
400 developers in
I mean, like,
an indie game, and it's
scale.
dying out.
If you're at any scale, if you're top dog and telling what the lowest person what to do, you're doing it wrong. You're failing at bossing.
Yeah. Well, you guys have heard my rant about project management, but let's not derail into that, and let's talk about some other cool shit in the industry and another company that has been like, can I just take a moment to thank Epic Games and thank Tim Sweeney for giving other corporations this opportunity to take shots at their expense.
What not to do?
They now have an archetype of what not to do, and they're just essentially saying, we're not like Epic. That's what all of these companies are doing. It's just pretty much saying, hey guys, look, we're doing not Epic things, and everybody's cheering.
Mm-hmm.
That is almost sad.
Yeah,
that's sad.
Think about how much they broke the internet when they said the Master Chief Collection is coming to Steam.
Yeah.
People just wanted it on PC, and people were willing to deal with the 10 store to get it on PC.
Yep.
And it's like, well,
what I was
we see what Epic is doing, and we see how bad they're fucking up. Let's not be Epic. Now we can get some companies to also use Epic and NVIDIA and Intel as how not to handle PC gaming. That's great.
And that is
really fucking great.
And that is what Xbox this past week made a public statement where they made this. This is to be clear, this is a PR strategy statement. So essentially what they're doing, because I'm pretty certain, I can't remember when their financial year ended, but essentially this sounds like this is a new fiscal year strategy shift from a corporate standpoint. And essentially what they're doing is that they have budgeted out where they're going to expand. And right now what they're focused on is diversifying and expanding their market share, And one of the, obviously they're having difficult time making that forward in the console space. PS4 at this point is pretty well dominated, and for that matter, the consoles are hitting the end of their generation. So there's really not room for expansion there, even if somehow they released a new version of the Xbox One that was just such a better value.
They just did. Oh, they did just release a new Xbox.
You talking about the Xbox
edition.
SAD? Yeah, the SAD version of Xbox.
Yeah.
I'm sad about buying an Xbox.
On their naming.
But my
they
point
did
is
it to themselves.
Yeah, they just made that meme themselves.
Yeah, they did.
But the
how
point
did
is,
you not see that? Whoever marketed that should be fired.
No,
Fired
they should. They should be promoted.
Fired. It's just like, really?
They should be promoted.
Did you do this deliberately, or are you that blind?
Promoted at Sony. My mom bought me an Xbox One SAD edition. I hate you, Mom.
Well, the thing is that. So here's the thing. This, like I said, sounds like an overall corporate strategy that they're going for. They're essentially saying, okay, we need to really push into the PC space. We know that is the only platform that really rivals PlayStation at this point. That is where we already dominate the PC platform. So let's really kind of hone in on that. That's a growth market. It's growing year over year. Why not? And so they look at it, and they obviously can see the feedback. People don't like the Xbox Store for very clear reasons, or I should say the Microsoft Store for very clear reasons, such as you can't mod Xbox or Microsoft Store games. That was the biggest complaint on there. You can't mod them because you can't access any of the source files. So they're like, okay, well, we can try to rebuild a storefront, which will cost a lot of money. Or, and furthermore, moving away from the Microsoft Store would be a horrible decision from a corporate strategy standpoint. You don't want to build another storefront on the Windows platform. That would be disastrous. So instead, they're like, well, what's the largest?
You don't want to compete with your own store.
Exactly. So then their choice there is,
But
okay,
it has a cart.
so what is the largest and most stable game platform on PC? Pretty easy answer. There's not really, like, despite all the news surrounding the Epic Store and what Tim Sweeney would want you to believe, the Steam Store is still by far the largest, and it has been through multiple trials and tribulations and has established itself fairly stably. So they chose that.
You made this way overly complicated than it has to be even.
Mm-hmm.
What if people on PC been screaming at you for 4 years since you started putting games on PC?
Yeah.
What is the one major request people have asked for? Put it on Steam.
To not have exclusives.
Yeah.
See, but they're not exclusive if they're on PC. They haven't had an Xbox exclusive in like 4 years.
It depends on which PlayStation fanboy you're talking about. They're still Xbox exclusives if they're not on PlayStation.
Well, the Xbox fanboys
PlayStation is the only
PlayStation guys are like, Xbox has no games.
Well, no. So the thing is, yeah, it depends on the one you talk to. Some of them are like, Xbox has no games because they're all on PC. Other ones are like, well, it's not on PlayStation and therefore it's still an Xbox exclusive. I've literally heard
Xbox guys saying that.
Hence why they've been saying that they've been saying that the PC is essentially an Xbox. And Kev, I know your thoughts on that.
PC.
Like the you guys got it backwards.
PC. Let's get that clear.
Yeah, you got it backwards. It's not that the PC is an Xbox. No, it's the Xbox is a PC that's just really slimmed down. That's the truth of it.
That's just really bad.
Well, you got a better deal if you buy an Alienware Alpha.
Can we take a moment and pour one out for the Alienware Alpha?
And the Ouya?
Yeah, can we? Yeah, exactly.
They discontinued the Ouya this month too.
Can we get F's in chat for the
the Steam box in general, but the Alienware Alpha actually really tried to go somewhere with it and had some potential for the price that they were offering. I
thought the Alpha was actually a really, really dope concept. I was actually, before they discontinued them, was waiting for the next generation Alpha and was actually going to buy one.
Well,
there was a second generation Alpha that came out.
Yeah, I know, but I was waiting for the third because I decided I was going to get one like midway through the second one before they discontinued them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the only people that actually went anywhere with the Steam machine.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it was because they offered a Windows option.
Well, there was
a smarter option.
Well, yeah. So my thing here on there, obviously, to outline what Xbox is doing here to make it clear. So they're doing two things. There's two fronts to this strategy that they're going for. The first front is that, as we've alluded to, they're going to be releasing. I think it's 14 titles onto the Steam store. 14 Xbox first-party titles on Steam.
Can we refer to them as Microsoft titles? It feels dirty when you call them Xbox games.
Xbox is a brand. It's not a fucking console. And I think people really need to get that out of their head. I have a fucking Xbox app on my goddamn Windows Store PC. Xbox is a brand. It's a platform which is not necessarily restricted to
hardware. The Xbox was just a console, then you could play your Xbone games on the OG Xbox.
Yeah.
I still feel dirty saying
same as PlayStation.
Games.
PlayStation
in any
is
case,
just brand, not the console.
In any case,
is a console.
Yeah. So in any case, though, one of the things that's going to be big on there is that they're obviously going to release that group of games onto the Steam store. And then they're also making Xbox Game Pass available on PC as well. Not on Steam. That'll probably be on the Windows Store. Which, to be frankly honest, that seems like a pretty good use for that. So essentially, they're two winning pieces on there, the two advantages that they really had, they're bringing those to PC to try to leverage their space in PC as best they can.
To throw a simplified tech, there's actually a third piece on there. Is they're trying to make their games a lot easier to program for too. The
Yes.
Win32 support,
Yep.
which is not, most people are just going to be like, yeah, whatever, most consumers, but it's going to make it a lot easier for people to develop games for them so that they're, can increase their diversity and prolific.
Something else to keep in mind too. Think about the people that they're opening up to, the people that maybe play PC games, but they don't follow games media. They're not following all the news. They might not have even known that the Microsoft games were on the PC in the Microsoft Store. Yeah. Now you see these ads, Master Chief Collection coming to Steam. Hey, I didn't know they were doing all of this. Gears 5 on Steam. I didn't know about that. You start seeing these ads pop up. That's opening yourself up to good money. You have to think they saw the sales from something like Cuphead too, where I'm pretty sure it sold like ass on the Windows 10 store, but sold pretty decently on Steam. They said there were 1 million copies sold on PC. They just didn't say what platform. Pretty sure it was Steam.
What now? Which game?
With Cuphead.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they saw numbers.
8-bit Dark Souls.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is that the major thing with the games available gets people on there, but here's the thing, and I've kind of
it puts it in front of the audience where they are. It's kind of like where they say location is everything in business.
Yes.
You want to be on a good corner, you be on the good corner in PC gaming is Steam.
Yeah,
that's where everybody is.
Well, and the thing is unfortunately, a lot of the console gamer mindset has been really warped over the past couple of decades, over the past few decades with a marketing strategy that has essentially said that your gaming platform, your console, is only worth the exclusive games that are offered on it. And as a result, people are going to potentially discount the Xbox hardware itself just because it doesn't have exclusives on it, which I feel like that might be a little disingenuous, because the thing is that while personally, as a PC gamer, I prefer my games on my PC all the time. If I want a living room experience, I got a fucking Steam Link in my bedroom, hooked up to my TV in my bedroom, got a Steam controller there, blast it up on there, and I'm good to go. It streams it directly from my monster PC that's here in my office. I ain't got to worry about that. However, not everybody has that kind of money. I make no delusions that my PC is $2,500+ It's had stuff added on there, so I don't even know what the running cost of it is anymore. But it is in excess of $2,500. That is unrealistic of a budget for the vast majority of gamers out there. And for that price, having something like a $200-$300 console may be a good value proposition for some people. Depends on how cheap it is. If it's $400, that gets into budget PC territory, and oftentimes budget PC games can do better, but whatever.
There's been some trade-offs where sometimes where a budget PC is inferior to a console. Currently, it is not. Currently, a budget, with the integrated graphics and the new Ryzen APUs, a budget PC is superior to console.
Well, I would disagree with that. I've seen some of the benchmarks on some of these Ryzen 3 2600s.
Yeah.
And Xbox One base model will run circles around that.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing to keep in mind is that you're talking a price versus performance, like offering to the consumer. When you're dealing with, in particular, the consoles at the end of their life, they've hit multiple price cuts, right? From where they originally were. That becomes very difficult for a budget PC to compete with. Now, at launch, when you're talking $400 or $500 for these consoles,
at launch, you can smack the hell out of an Xbox
it's
with a $500 PC.
That's what I'm referring to. Is like when you're looking at launch price. Sorry.
Yeah. We're talking about today. Today, I would say an Xbox One S is a better value than a $400 or $500.
Because it's like what, $250 for an Xbox One
Yeah,
X?
you can get like 250.
Yeah,
You could probably find an Xbox One X if you're looking around. Look real heavy.
for 350.
Xbox One SAD is MSRP at 250, whereas there's a lot of deals on the regular S for 200, which is why there was why people were making such a big deal on making fun of it. It's like you're having this cut down version that's more expensive than what's out.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
when
was
realistically the SAD should be about 150.
It was a sad approach. But no, so here's the thing: is that
it was just exactly the Xbox One S all digital. Like, why does that acronym spell SAD?
Yeah. But so here's the thing, though, is that I think the important thing to note on there, though, is that value proposition 250, whatever it happens to be, honestly, it's better than what a PC could do. And I know a lot of the hardcore PCMR guys would be like, oh, no, it's not right. For a lot of people, it's a great value proposition. At launch, $400 or $500, hell no. I can build fucking PCs all day that will run around.
Dealing with customers on this that look into getting into PC gaming, console gaming, if they're on the fence or anything like that. I've evaluated, like, say if they want, asking me about building a PC for them. I've gone to them in certain cases if their budget is low enough, then I'll say, what, yes, I'd love to take your money and build a PC for you, but you're going to get more for your money for a pre-built. And there's PCMR people who are like, no, build it yourself, or whatever. It's one of those things of like, if you start getting into a low enough budget, trying to collect the parts for yourself, just you building it can end up being more expensive than a pre-built.
Yep.
I talked about my case.
If you run into part shortages, like during the mining boom, buying a pre-built PC was cheaper than an entire or a single graphics card by itself.
Yeah.
A few months ago, about 3 months ago, I bought my kids a pre-built. Had a Ryzen 5 2600, RX 580, and the reason I did it is because I paid $700 for it. And for the $700 that I paid for it, it was actually a little bit cheaper, about 100, 150 bucks cheaper to just get the CyberPower PC than it was to go out and get all the parts. I was getting ready to build it, and I just saw it at Best Buy. I'm like, whoa.
Usually the building yourself is a better deal either when you get into
it depends.
upper end or when you're chasing, you have the patience to wait months to chase deals.
Like me.
Exactly.
People who do those can get this shit ridiculously cheap when they start chasing some of those deals.
Yep.
Exactly. Or when you start shopping around Black Friday. I would also say, where people say, the PC is the way to go. I say it always depends. Like, say what we want to about exclusives. I don't see them as the reason to buy a console, but I do see them as an added value. I could say, hey, you can play all the games you already want to play, and maybe say plus this added value of we're also making God of War.
Well, and
for our console.
That's the thing, is that is the way, to me, that you should consider the purchase for a console. However, most people out there now, and it's just like, honestly, it's just like the streaming services, it's just like anything else that has exclusive content tied to it. People consider the content first, with the actual platform that they're on as being the extra condition. I don't know about that. It's not always what the service is offering. In some cases, it might be what's the price versus what I'm getting out of it. Like, how many, for example, we'll take the Xbox versus PlayStation thing. If you both have an Xbox and a PlayStation at $300, and you're like looking at, and you pretty much look, well, how many games does the Xbox have for me to play? Not necessarily just exclusives, but just period. How many games do I have to play? With that added cost of $300 for the console versus PlayStation, all these games I have to play for the added cost of the hardware itself. Like, usually it seems to me, from what I'm seeing, the more I'm talking to people, that console is kind of the secondary consideration. It's kind of like when you're looking to purchase Hulu versus Netflix.
I think it depends. It goes from person to person. And the reason I'm going to say that, like, you look at, I'm going to use God of War as an example. Mm-hmm. It sold 10 million copies. And 10 million copies sounds amazing until you remember there's over 90 million PlayStation 4s out there.
Yeah.
Is that really the pushing, determining factor as to why you buy a console? Like multiplats are what sells on consoles, and that's how it's been for a while. I'm more so leaning towards, again, I think most people are like, hey, just what's the better console? They actually had a survey on this, the survey like out in 2015, maybe in 2014, where they asked the people, why did you pick which console? And a lot of people chose the PS4 because the base model PS4, before we got the Pro, before we got the X, could do 1080p, and the Xbox One couldn't. They got it because they still thought the Xbox One had that 24-hour check-in, and the PS4 didn't. They thought that, oh, it's $100 more because you still need Connect, though they dropped that within the first year, and the PS4 didn't have that. The PlayStation camera was always extra; it's separate from the base model. And it was a lot of perception, and it's a lot of, oh, the games look better on here, they run better on here. It's kind of like with the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. The Genesis was cheaper, but the Super Nintendo, the games looked better and ran better. And a lot of people went after the Super Nintendo. I think the NES had a lot to do with that too. But I think that's what got people doing that.
I think it's a combination. That is a big part of it. I agree. But I think it is a combination of effects. And that 10 million copies of, God of War versus the 90 million consoles, there's also the factor of people may have been like, well, I like, and it's not necessarily just God of War, because they have, 3 or 4 pretty much exclusive IPs.
Oh, Sony got way more than that.
Oh, they have a lot more.
I mean,
Sony has like 9-10 studios that are always pumping out their exclusives.
Main ones that people tend to the main ones people tend to focus on as of recent.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that make the big news on, oh, this is the reason why to buy PS4.
Like
I'm a PC gamer, but I have a PS4 to play God of War or Uncharted or Bloodborne. Yeah. But I think you look at, not everyone who plays Spider-Man is also going to buy Uncharted.
Yeah, that's very true.
Or God of War. So you're looking at that 10 million in the exclusivity selling the console. I still think it does to a certain extent. If you combine all those sales numbers, it's probably going to be a lot higher margin than the not quite 10 or a little bit more than 10%, like 12% of the total consoles, actually.
Oh, totally. Yeah, like there are people out there that bought a PS4 just for God of War. Well, I make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. When I upgraded to my PS4 Pro and got my 4K monitor, it was for God of War.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have just stayed on my base model.
The thing is that while God of War obviously was a very well liked and well selling game, there are also other factors on there. Like, so some people will have a multi-tiered effect, and usually, again, the actual console hardware itself isn't a consideration in this. What they'll look at is what games do I play? First question. Oh, I play X, Y, and Z. Where are those games available? Oh, they're available just PlayStation, just Xbox, just PC, both, all three, whatever. That there's limits my choice down to whatever one where they're available. Then the most important question: where are my friends playing?
I think that's a big thing this generation. Yes.
Yeah, that's been a pretty big deal since the last generation too.
Prior to the current
PS3
generation launch.
Yeah,
well, you saw a lot of the shift from PS4 or from Xbox 360 to the PS4. The biggest discussion I saw is all my friends are getting a PS4.
Yep, and I've heard that a lot.
I think, and that's what I was getting at. I think that was a big deal this generation. Now, even my switch to PC, exactly what you were talking about, Mort. When I came from 360, that was my only gaming platform at the time. I had a Wii for a while. Was what games can I get on Steam or on PC that I actually play? I was worried about. I thought mouse and keyboard would be hard. Can I use a controller? I like the Steam price. I like that I could basically do infinite backward compatibility. I liked all of these different options, and I really took a look at that.
Yeah.
When I went from PS2 to the 360, Mass Effect 1 was a big part of it. Also, I didn't like that $600 PS3 price because I was waiting on the PS3 until I saw the price.
Yep.
I've always leaned toward PlayStation.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there. There's a lot more factors than just say what exclusives or where are my friends at. There's a lot of reasons.
And I think there was I do agree with you that the launch and the first few years after launch, even Microsoft tripped and fell on their face hardcore with their marketing, and that's the reason why they're in the position they are now. And to be honest with you,
it took until 2016 to bounce back.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm looking more on recent things. My conversations around the topic have been more recent, so I haven't heard as many people talking about, oh, I don't like the restrictions on the Xbox, or oh, the Xbox is weaker than the PlayStation. Nobody's talking about the performance of the consoles.
Not anymore.
Nobody's talking about the restrictive 24-hour check-in, because that's obviously long since been debunked. No one's talking about that anymore. That's fallen out of public discussion. Now what everybody's talking about is, what games do I have to play on these consoles, and how many people are my friends playing these games, or are there people playing these games? And obviously, since the vast majority of console gamers are on PlayStation, chances are it's just kind of a self-perpetuating cycle. More people are on PlayStation, so more people will buy PlayStation to play with their friends, especially with prevalence of really popular online games like Overwatch or Fortnite or whatever. People will that are going to buy a console will flock to the PlayStation just because there's more people playing it.
Right, and I think that has a lot to do with it too. And there's always ways to bounce back, like PS3 bounced back.
Yeah.
Like, because PlayStation 3 had this, I've always made the parallel comparison. PlayStation 3 and Xbox One made the exact same slip-ups.
Yeah.
Fall on their face the exact same ways. It took Sony until about 2011 to really pick themselves back up, and a lot of people went out and bought PlayStations after that. You know, they were like, hey, I can get free online. Hey, I like these exclusives, whatever. So it can happen. And eventually, I know they got really close. I don't know if they actually beat out the 360, but I know they got really close.
They never quite beat it out now.
I've heard conflicting reports. I've heard that they have. I heard that it was like just over. I heard it was just under. I don't know.
Ultimately, it ended up coming into third place.
Yeah, because the Wii smacked everybody.
Yeah.
The Wii beat the hell out of everyone.
Wii was of that generation, it was the hottest seller with the shortest lifespan. Like, people dropped that, like that's the thing, is the 360 had the longest lifespan. It launched the earliest out of all of them and ran super long. It was one of the longest running consoles, I think, ever.
Yeah.
I think it might be the longest running.
PlayStation 2.
PlayStation got discontinued after the 360, but it also came out a year later. So I don't know.
PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2. Not PlayStation 3.
Oh yeah, the PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2 ran for it was like 12 years or something like that.
Yeah, like 12, 13 years. I didn't even think about it.
It was because it was the first of that generation. No, did it come out before the original Xbox or after?
Yeah, year 2000 or 2000, or
it was
2000. It came out before the OG Xbox.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
the
OG Xbox
about a year and a half, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, it came out. It came out beforehand, and it ran. It like end of support was like 2012. I want to say officially, like the official. All right, guys, we're officially cutting.
Yeah, part of the advantage of that official support cut though was it was not a online system,
like for repairs.
No. I'm talking about official. They're no longer supporting any development or release of games for the console, which I think.
Oh yeah, that ended like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, the biggest reason behind that, though, is even though it was supposedly online capable, it was not a primary online system.
Yes.
So that's part of the reason why they were able to continue that support for so long, because they didn't have to worry about online compatibility and security issues, whereas they did with the 360. So you look at an online system, that's a pretty damn impressive lifespan. Yes, it was definitely dwarfed by the PS2, but for what it was pretty impressive. And then, of course, Xbox or Microsoft dropped the ball generation later.
But my major point on that was that a lot of times you don't see people really focusing as much on what the hardware offers, which I think is generally the shift that a lot of people are having, and the reason why you're seeing, like, you will hear a couple of fanboys getting up in arms about Google Stadia or xCloud or whatever, but the truth of the matter is if the gaming experience is solid enough, I think the market will very much hop ship and go to a streaming games platform, because it's easier. You don't need a fucking console. You don't need anything. You need a TV and a controller, and that's it.
Whereas you look at like current consoles, I have to buy the console, the games, and pay a subscription.
Yeah.
Whereas Stadia is like, well, I have not even a console, a much cheaper device. It's a streaming device. I think the Google Chromecast Ultra is in support of
Yes.
it.
Yep.
So a device that people may already have, just pay the subscription and never have to buy games.
And to that point, and that's not just Stadia, that's also xCloud, and
Yeah.
you can tell that the major gaming OEMs are realizing this, hence why Sony's like, so we don't have that kind of infrastructure. We need to partner with someone. And people are like, oh, Microsoft and Sony are teaming up to take out Google. No, I guarantee you what it was, and I think I've said this before.
They wanted to fix PlayStation Now.
No, I guarantee you what the reason why they partnered with Microsoft is because the choices were Google's cloud platform, Microsoft's Azure, or Amazon Web Services.
Which Amazon is planning their own service like that too.
Sony put out an RFP, a request for proposal, to all three of those companies to see who would host their cloud infrastructure. And I guarantee you that Amazon, from my experience, Amazon don't give a fuck. They will quote everybody the same base price. Like no ifs, ands, or buts. You're not getting any special treatment or special deals. That's it. Google probably didn't even respond because they're trying to put up a competing service, and they probably were hesitant or delayed in responding. And then Microsoft, from my experience, Microsoft probably fell head over heels trying to put together a competitive proposal for them, and that's the reason why they won. Had nothing. They weren't even considering the Xbox brand in that. Xbox wasn't even part of that conversation, which is why everybody was like, how did Xbox not know about this partnership? Because it's not their fucking department. It was Azure. Yeah. It's a different business line. Like, why are they going to be having this conversation? Why, if I run a business and I have two departments in that business, it's not required for those two business lines to talk to each other.
No.
But
why would they need to? There's no. It's like saying, "Hey, I have a bookstore. Why do I need to go talk to McDonald's?"
Yeah, it would be like I'm trying to think of a good example that everybody would know about. A company that owns two different businesses, like be like Walmart and Sam's Club, right? Both are stores, whatever. Let's say Sam's Club worked out a deal to put McDonald's in every Sam's Club. Why the fuck would Walmart need to know about that? They wouldn't. They would absolutely have zero say in that, zero discussion in that. They would know about it when everybody else found out about it. And that's the
thing. Like, I don't even think the PlayStation division necessarily even knew when you think about it.
No,
because from what I understand, they're doing it for Sony services.
Yeah, and the thing is
my first thought was, hey, we're starting up our own movie streaming service. It had nothing to do with games.
I think it was an overall technology partnership. And what that means is you might see a Sony game streaming service, kind of like PS Now, only a little bit more robust. Movie streaming service, hell, they could roll it all into one. That would be smart from their position.
Yeah, because they have their feet in music, movies, games.
They're
their
all
strength.
Over entertainment. That's their strength.
And then they put it all on their Sony TVs?
Yep. They got their Sony TVs, and they could have their which I think, if I remember correctly, PS Now already works with Sony TVs.
It's Samsung, I think.
Oh, is this? You're right.
I think it's Samsung.
You're right. Yep, that's correct. But point is that they could have that all integrated and try to leverage their company's strengths into this partnership. It has very little to do with what these fanboys think of the console war. Newsflash, the console war is only really between you fanboys.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
The corporations themselves
come out and said that. Let's remember when Phil Spencer came out a few years ago and said your console is distasteful.
Yeah.
He says disgusting on multiple occasions.
Well, the thing is, like, there's a similar setup of competition already going on in video streaming. Netflix makes use of Amazon Web Services.
Mm-hmm. And Amazon has their own
competes with Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah.
And it comes free with my Amazon Prime that I pay for. I love it.
Yeah.
I use both Netflix and I have Hulu.
Yeah.
I use all three. It's great.
Amazon has started making that a selling point. It started off as a bonus for many people, but it's actually now become a marketable selling point for Amazon Prime services
now that they've also started their own.
Well, I mean, I wish they have a few better shows on there. That is my one critique there. I don't think the show there's even the occasional good show, but most of the shows are kind of now.
Yeah. But in any case, though, my major thing on here is that I like the strategy direction that Xbox is going here. Now they're going to start with Steam, and that's what they've outlined. They pretty much said, hey, we're going to start with Steam, see how that goes, and then potentially expand out from there. And I've had a lot of because obviously I've made some anti-Epic statements, dispelling a lot of the misinformation from that. Obviously, I get a lot of people coming to me that are like these people that are very passionate against Epic, which I kind of see as a little bit misled, but whatever. That's not a conversation here. They're like, oh, they're doing this to spite Epic. I'm like, no. If they get a good foothold in here and they do well enough, and then Epic starts bringing up their store and establishing it and making it stable and worthwhile and not a risky investment, Microsoft is going to put their games on the Epic store. Sorry, they don't fucking care about your personal bias.
No.
I wish they put it on GOG.
Money goes.
Yeah, GOG was one of the ones they mentioned. Although I'm hesitant about GOG, I'm a little leery. They mentioned that they would look at GOG, they would look at Epic, they would look everywhere, right? But I'm a little leery of GOG because the no DRM thing, despite the fact that DRM is completely fucking worthless and doesn't prevent piracy, it's security theater, right? It's like the TSA in an airport. TSA hasn't actually stopped any terrorists. It's security theater. It's meant to make you feel secure. You're going through a metal detector and there's guards all over the place, and to make you feel safe. That's the same thing that DRM functions as at this point. It's for shareholders. It's security theater for shareholders. It makes the shareholders feel like the corporation is doing something to protect the corporation's IP, which makes shareholders feel more comfortable. That's the reason why I'm a little bit leery about them releasing on GOG, just because from a publicly traded standpoint, the shareholders might feel a little uncomfortable with putting their games on a non-DRM store. So we'll see.
I'm not arguing against Microsoft's approach, although I'm a little bit curious on why they didn't say, hey, let's throw it fucking everywhere and go with that price minimum idea, like the revenue minimum that they're looking for versus, like say, let's put it available on Epic, on Steam, on Discord. And if they have an issue with the DRM, okay, GOG gets left out. It sucks from the consumer standpoint, but I understand it from the business standpoint because of the security theater deal. They're looking at their shareholders, but casting that net as wide as possible.
But that's not the way that that corporations work. And I can speak to this one specifically. They tend to have an approach of minimal risk, right? They want to expand. They want to branch out. They want to keep growing their business, growing their profits. That's what the shareholders demand. But any unnecessary risk is seen as being a horrible idea. So they'll
even
even
the smallest of risks is bad.
Yeah. So when they look at
it this way, like Epic is PR adverse right now.
Yes.
So I can understand staying away from them, but why avoid Discord unless it just never crossed their mind? Maybe that's
Discord is such a
isn't there.
Yeah, Discord is such a non-player
Discord
in the
or
game.
Twitch for that matter, because I think they can sell games through Twitch as well, right?
And that would be
it sells on Amazon.
Now the thing is,
they already sell games on Amazon.
Now, and here's another factor that a lot of people aren't considering. The reason why they're avoiding Epic and why they might avoid Amazon, at least to start off, is not necessarily because Epic is just PR adverse. It's not the Epic by itself is PR adverse. It's that the implications of Epic, who is seen as being very anti-competitive right now, partnering with Microsoft, there are still factions of the internet that have not let the Microsoft antitrust suit go, they still see Microsoft as being monopolistic everywhere they go. Doesn't matter what Microsoft does. Microsoft could say, we're giving away all our money. And people will be like, that's a monopoly on giving away money.
And here's the thing on the
Actually, it's funny. I saw that on the PC Master Race subreddit just a couple days ago.
Don't forget, but don't blindly live in the past. Like, obviously, we don't want to give them free reign because, yes, they will try to be monopolistic. Like Google is, on their way to that shit right now because people are giving them too much free reign. Be cautious. Be a little bit pessimistic, be a little bit cynical, but you don't need to live in the negativity of the past because that's
But people don't let shit go.
Session is helping out consumers in the long run, as long as people eventually start buying. So Microsoft doesn't get too deep that they start using desperation tactics.
Well,
like Epic is.
Well, I mean, people are calling Microsoft playing their games on PC
style.
Desperation.
Let me rephrase that in a way that makes sense the way I want it to. Epic style desperation tactics.
Yeah, because they're calling putting the games on PC Epic desperation.
And here's the thing: is that a consumer, an uneducated consumer, would see that, especially if they're a fanboy, are going to call this a desperation tactic. And to be fair, it almost certainly accelerated their timeline of doing this. But I guarantee you, this would have been inevitable for Microsoft to do. Because me, putting on my corporate thinker hat, my corporate expansionist hat, I have my console over here. Let's say it's doing great. Let's say that Xbox was in the place of PlayStation instead this generation, right? Where they were dominating that market. That allows me to kind of relax a little bit. But nonetheless, I have, depending on whose figures you're looking at, I have anywhere from 25 to 35% of the gaming fucking market on my also platform of Windows sitting over here, not generating the profit numbers that we potentially could be. Doesn't matter how well Xbox is doing. Eventually, that conversation is going to come up of, well, how are your figures doing on Windows? Oh, they're underperforming. Why is that? Because, the feedback we're getting, nobody fucking likes the Windows Store. That conversation would have inevitably come up. So the desperation, where the desperation comes in, is it accelerated the timeline. Because the Xbox console is not performing as well as it would have, I think that they made this move before the next generation console came out. I think that was the deliberate where the desperation came in. Whereas I think had the Xbox done well, more than likely what would have happened is this move would have happened to coincide with the launch of the next console. So it would have happened. It might have been just a year or two delayed.
Yeah.
But overall,
something I want to add too that we were talking about a couple minutes ago. We were talking about where they're selling. They do sell the games on Amazon. That is
physical
something
games.
That
he's talking about digital
download too. Like I'm looking at Crackdown 3 right now.
No. What he's talking about is the actual Twitch game store. The store that nobody knows exists.
The Twitch game store isn't a thing anymore. Like they had that for a very short period of time, and now everything just goes back to Amazon.
Well, I'm not Amazon, Twitch. They're the same thing. What I'm talking about is I have the Twitch app on my computer. I open it up. I have a games library on there, a store where I can buy games. Amazon and Twitch are the same thing. Amazon owns Twitch, so yes, it's the Twitch launcher. But I'm buying, what I'm talking about is
you open up my games on there.
I know you get games on there, but that's not what I'm getting at.
I'm talking about Twitch as a distribution service.
Yes,
and I'm saying they don't. I'm saying the only thing they do now on there are the games of Twitch, the monthly games. Everything else, they used to do a store in there. But now all that shit just routes back to Amazon, and you just use Steam codes or Windows 10 game stores.
Okay, fair enough then. Because I can't open that up to checks, and obviously I'm not really buying any games off of there anyway. So
I only know because I've tried it.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
So experience tells.
Yeah. So in any case, though, the major point to add on there is that I think that's where the desperation is. Obviously, like I said, a lot of times fanboys are trying to look for any excuse they can to confirm their bias, to validate their fanaticism, which is unfortunate. But a lot of times you can't really look to them for an accurate portrayal of the way business works, because
or
truthfully,
accurate portrayal of anything.
yeah, exactly. They have no fucking clue how corporate business works, but they will be the first to step up and tell you what they think. And that's the unfortunate thing. I'll tell them, like, listen, corporate budgeting doesn't really always factor in past performance as much as you would think. In fact, it's criticized quite often for sometimes ignoring past performance of things and just looking at future projections all the time, when sometimes it shouldn't. It's not always the case, but I'm just saying, like, most people don't realize that about corporate budgeting. So whenever a purchase decision's made, or a strategy like what Xbox is doing here is being made, a lot of people don't realize that they're not doing this necessarily based upon the performance of the Xbox. They're doing this as part of a coordinated effort. I guarantee you this is going to tie into xCloud, into the next Xbox console. All of those things are going to fit together. This is a cohesive strategy decision. And the whole point of this, the end goal, is to make more money. All right. They're trying to play like they're being consumer friendly, and they're supporting Win32 apps, and they're releasing on the whatever. The line, the PR statement is all, we're consumer friendly. We're your friends, guys. They're a giant corporation. They aren't your fucking friends. They would sell you into slavery if they knew they could get away with it, and if it was profitable enough for them. That's Microsoft, that's fucking Sony, that's Epic, that's Valve, that's every single one of them. You know, they're not your friends. They don't like you. They like your wallet.
Right, and that's the argument that's always been funny when you talk to the fanboys, because Microsoft wasn't doing this to be necessarily consumer friendly. They were doing this like, hey, we're not making money on our store the way we want to. We had our own store because we wanted all the money. Well, shit, we'll make more if we just go on where the audience is. This is where the money's at. Let's do that.
And it's actually fun, because it's one of the examples of consumer focus and capitalism working as it should, right? Because Microsoft has tried multiple times to do things in a way that consumers didn't like. Let's go back to games with Windows Live, right? Consumers fucking hated that, right?
Oh, people are still mad about that. People still
and the thing is that is the reason why Steam is so big, is because of games with Windows Live was so bad.
Yeah,
and Sekiro was so bad.
It was so bad, and then and then when Microsoft left it, that's really when Steam took off.
Yeah,
was when Microsoft walked. Like I tell people all the time, Microsoft could be in Steam's position if they weren't up their own asses.
Yep. And the thing is that after that, they legit were trying to position things in such a way to force all games to have to go through the Windows Store. At one point in time, they were hitting that way. They didn't fully commit to anything, but it was legit looking like they were trying to implement an infrastructure where if you wanted to have a video game made, it had to go through the Windows Store. No
was
Steam.
it UWP shit?
Yeah, it looked like they were trying to set things up to where UWP was the one true god, and you could not get your system around that. There was going to be no Win32 sideloading at all, which means Steam, any other stores that were available, GOG, Steam, whatever, would be obsolete, would be removed from the market. That was legit something they were trying to do. And you know what?
And let's remember a couple years ago, our good old friend Sweenderp tried to predict this.
Yeah.
And now he's doing the same thing.
I
just want to throw a little epic shade in there.
Oh, no, absolutely. Well, the thing is that he was one of the people that was railing hard against them doing this, because the funny part about it is I kind of feel like that he may have had strategy plans for the store back then, and knew that if Microsoft were to be unchecked, that it would kill his plans for having a storefront.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was getting into, because he wanted to do it. Because now he's trying to do it, and it ain't gonna work out.
I don't know if necessarily the exclusivity was in the strategy back then. I think it might have been a little bit less cohesive than that. It might have been just I want to release a game store myself, and essentially if Microsoft monopolizes the distribution, then I can't do the store. Whatever the case is, is that I feel like that when people tend to look at Microsoft now, they're playing as consumer friendly, but that's only because they got smacked around by consumers enough times to put them into shape. And that's a good example. That's what we should be doing to every single fucking one of the other corporations. Microsoft at this point is a fairly obedient puppy. It can still bite you if you're not paying attention to it. But right now we've got in a place where it knows how to sit and knows how to heal. We need to do that to Sony. We need to do that to Epic, to Valve, to every single one of these other corporations that Amazon fucking Amazon, yeah, especially Amazon.
Nvidia, right? Nvidia needs the newspaper, and right now Nvidia needs the newspaper the most.
You look at the top 4.
Give them one good swat with the newspaper.
No, Google and Amazon need the newspaper the most. Let's be honest. Facebook too. Facebook also needs.
Facebook needs the newspaper.
No. Facebook needs a fucking leather whip. Let's be honest.
I was gonna say what you call it, a cast iron skillet, but we can go with the whip.
I might like that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Facebook needs a cattle prod.
Yeah, there we go. Let's just
cattle prod works.
Shock treatments.
Yeah. So
bring a little bit more expression to.
You guys had to bring in shock.
Can we just lock them in a room with Mike Tyson and brass knuckles?
You guys had to bring shock treatments into the conversation when I'm trying to turn the topic to be about mental health.
Yes, I just made.
God, yes. Now this is going to sound really awkward when I transition this topic about the World Health Organization.
Yeah, we're talking about beating people with Mike Tyson.
Let me first preface this by saying that we here at the Pixel Crashers do not endorse shock treatments as any sort of legitimate mental health treatment unless we're prescribed by an official medical professional, which we are not.
Well, I prescribe it for console peasantry, and only for console peasantry.
I don't know. Any case, let's talk about some fun on here, and maybe also dispel a little bit of misinformation on here. So a little while ago, the World Health Organization, which is a kind of an international consortium of medical professionals, met and officially recognized gaming disorder as an actual listed disease with actual official symptoms and potential for research and treatment options coming in the future. And the major thing on here is that it is a behavior that has significant impairment in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. In other words, it's listed as a debilitating condition.
You can't do shit.
Yeah. In other words, you're missing work because you can't put down the video game. You're missing school because you can't put down the video game. Let me tell you something about this. You stayed up all fucking night playing Morrowind, and so you have to miss class because you couldn't fucking put down Morrowind. And your name happens to be Morty, and you couldn't put down Morrowind enough to go to fucking college class, and so you had to miss a couple, and you may or may not have almost failed a class because you missed several classes because you're busy playing fucking Morrowind. The point is, this isn't talking about people that just play video games a lot. Hell, you can play games 8 hours a day. If you're a professional streamer and you're playing games 8 hours a day, that's not necessarily saying you have a gaming disorder. Gaming disorder is whenever it starts impacting other areas of your life. When you start missing class, when you start missing work, when you start skipping appointments out with your friends, your family, that sort of thing. That's what we're talking about here. So with that said, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Since Rose has been very quiet, we'll give her some airtime to talk here. What are your thoughts on them putting this gaming disorder, recognizing it as a disease?
Well, it's about damn time, because I've seen a couple people succumb to basically the criteria they've put out, and everybody blew it off because it wasn't a recognized disorder. just got treated as addicts, basically. Now, I haven't looked into what the treatments would be. Hopefully not shock therapy.
Don't listen to Xaiphen.
I apologize to all those who have ever gone through mental health therapies that might have involved shock treatments. Totally not.
What?
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is people who actually, you look at old school experimental shock therapy is not the same thing as modern actual shock therapy, because usually, like people who have seizures, it can be very helpful to them.
Yes.
A lot of them welcome, like actual, helpful, not experimental, shock treatments. But that's the thing, is like modern games as we go along are made to be more and more addictive. They realize the potential behind this, and they are intentionally building these, especially the loot box simulators.
Oh yeah.
So if there's gambling addiction disorder, why would there not be in a video game environment that is built to be like a fucking gambling simulator?
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Kev?
I'm glad I'm with Rose. I'm glad that they're finally recognizing it as a disorder. But I hope that they don't try to turn it into everyone who likes video games has a disorder, because some people are going to try to abuse this. And what it comes down to, I think, like, is if you have a problem, like you said, are you missing family obligations, friend obligations? Can you not put the game down? Do you have trouble putting the game down? Even like, do you have trouble with it? Maybe, you do go to work every day and take care of your stuff, but you're not sleeping at night because you have to game at some point.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I get concerned. And there probably are people out there like that.
There are. I say that as a person who was one. Fortunately enough, I, just kind of naturally self-corrected on there. But I can say that 100% as a person who was an actual gaming addict. When I say I put 3,000 hours into Morrowind, that was over the course of maybe
very short frame of time. Maybe
it was a short period.
It was less than 2 years.
Yeah, I put I don't think people realize just how that was my most played game, to the point where I had literally every building, every cave, every notable marker on the map memorized. To such an because obviously there was no waypoint markers in Morrowind, right? It was a find it yourself. As a result, I had everything, literally everything in that game memorized, and it got so bad to the point where that game became literally a sleep aid for me. I would put the game on, hear the bum, 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 bum of that initial credit sequence, and out like a light.
That's another thing.
Well, have you tried Sea of Thieves? Because Sea of Thieves has the same effect on people.
Well, that's the thing, is like, that's another, marker for something that's potentially a disorder, is that, you are aware of, a negative impact that it's going to have, and you still go ahead with it anyway. Like, you want to play the game for fun, but it's going to put your ass to sleep. You're not playing it to go to sleep. You're not playing it for a sleep aid. You're playing it because you want to play the game, but it's going to put you to sleep, but you play it anyway, and the hope that you're going to actually play a game and have fun with it as a game, not a sleep aid. That's the signs of addictions or disorders, is a contrary belief on the disorder is it affects your life negatively, but
I can put it down anytime.
Yeah, exactly. Something that is addictive property is,
I can put the controller down anytime.
I can stop.
You are aware of, you are understanding the negative effects behind it. You know what it's doing. The problems it's causing. But you enter into it anyway on a regular basis in the belief that it may have an opposite effect.
Yeah. So, and as Kasork put it in the chat, they said, hopefully this can offer more research grants now. Because that's a major benefit. Yes, that is one of the key things of WHO recognizing this as an official disorder. That does open the opportunity for research grants to be gifted to
That's very
medical
important.
professionals to research this more in depth, get more facts behind it, rather than the typical, as what Kev was alluding to, the typical politician line. What was the '90s thing? Like the Mortal
That's when they
Kombat,
shut the
right?
school.
Yeah, like the
That's why Columbine happened, was the
games
video
cause
games.
violence, which is demonstrably inconclusive. There's never been any evidence to prove that games cause violence. But as a gaming disorder, people can now research maybe more of the cognitive effects, what specific things of games are causing that gaming disorder, what treatments are most effective, that sort of thing, to help people.
And can we stop listening to those politicians too? Because so
Yeah.
far, movies don't cause violence, but video games do. Rap music does. The internet does. There's so many different things that do, but we can't find any.
Remember,
you have-
rock and
unless
roll
you're-
used to cause it.
Oh yeah,
too,
rock and roll was
so-
the devil, right? Back in
Rock and
back
roll
in
was
the
the devil.
50s.
Unless you were embedded in whatever that media culture is, you do not have, the experience to really speak on, its effects.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems I have whenever, and I'm not just talking politicians. I just would like to make a statement to all of the YouTubers, the politicians, the celebrities of any kind. Unless you have an actual degree and are an accredited professional in the field of which you are making a statement, preface it by saying, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but my opinion is. Because the truth of it is you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't care if you're a politician talking about video games causing violence. I don't care if you're adding your 2 cents on the way corporations work and how exclusivity is competition and you're regurgitating Tim Sweeney's bullshit. I don't care if you're a celebrity talking about how this and that political decision will have this and that effect. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Can we also preface this with saying your opinions are not facts?
Yes.
Your feelings.
My opinions aren't facts. Nobody's opinions are facts. That's why they're opinions.
Yeah. Well, in 2019, you know how people are. If I feel a certain way, it's factual.
Yeah.
If
feels
I
equals
think
reals.
something, it's a fact.
And the thing
no
is
actual evidence to back it.
And the thing is something that I made a point earlier today. I made went on like a little tweet rant about kind of corporate strategies and financial stuff on there. But at the end of it, I said that I might have to do more financial analysis to try to find things to disprove what I just said. Note the phraseology there. If I want to prove something I'm saying, my methodology is to go and find something that disproves what I've just said. The term you're looking for is falsifiability, right? If I can find a condition where what I have said isn't true, does that condition contradict what I have said? If I can't falsify what I have said, and this is hard for people to understand, if I make a statement and I cannot provide a condition where that statement would not be true, I have made an incorrect statement. It's weird to wrap your mind around that concept because everything should be falsifiable. Is my light turned on right now? Well, let's see. If I turn the light off, I have falsified that claim. There is a condition where that light is no longer on. I turn it back on. Now I can have confirmed that light is in fact on. I know it's a really reductive way of putting
that's
it.
on the basis of the scientific community. There is never 100%. There's near level assured level, but you replicate an experiment enough times, you are going to end up with results, even if it's due to mistakes or other errors.
Yes.
There is going to be contrasting results, but proper data recording, you're going to include all results, whether they're errors or not, unless, of course, the experiment is set up to explicitly exclude those errors.
Yep.
But that's the thing is they can never be absolutely 100% on whatever that particular research is. But people on the flip side of that, people can cherry pick the results and say okay, this one result out of 1,000 is representative of this experiment, which is a
Yes.
contrasting effect. Like that's not how this works.
My favorite one is as I mentioned, is that YouTube video of if Google was a person, and there's this one chick that comes in here. What's the evidence that proves this? And the guy has this big huge stack of paper, and he's like, here's all the evidence that says what you think isn't true. And then he has one piece of paper, and he's like, here's the evidence that says it is true. And she grabs the piece of paper and says, I knew it. Cognitive dissonance, guys. Cognitive dissonance. That's the overall theme that I go on.
See, like I've done those wrong searches before.
Cognitive dissonance. The rest of us call it fucking stupid.
No, the rest of everybody calls it their natural state of being, because the majority of fucking people, including myself, and in fact, I would go so far as to say it is the vast majority, almost every single person in existence has a level of confirmation bias. They will seek to find the information that validates themselves because it makes them feel secure, it makes them feel good, it makes them feel like what they're doing is right and is good.
I've ended up countering my own arguments on occasion because I've gone looking for confirmation bias. My searches were explicit to find something that supported my argument, and I look at the list of Google searches, and fifth one down kind of supports my argument, and all the others are against it. Like, well, fuck, now I got to go back there, head down. Yes, I was not completely right. Now I found a little bit of something, but I'm not going to say this. I'm going to say this is not enough to support my argument. I'm actually wrong in this venue.
Yeah, my point.
Maybe I'm just weird then, because when I go looking for searches and things like that, I never look for facts that I already know or to disprove something I already know. I look for, I
like to back up,
and I ask a blanket kind of neutral question. What is this?
Mm-hmm. I back up my arguments with sources.
Well, and the thing is
for
the
searches, when I'm making my arguments, like, wait a minute, here is my source material. Like, I did not recall it when I first started the argument, but I went up and said, all right, here's the source material, or close enough to what I originally thought was the source material.
Totally. I do that too, and it's got me sleeping on the couch a couple times. My wife can't stand it.
Yeah, the thing is, okay, to be fair, there's a time and a place. Usually the spouse is not the best time to say, here, let me pull up this article that proves myself right in our argument. That never goes well, man. That never. You're wrong. Just admit that you're wrong.
We were arguing about why Kim Kardashian got famous. It was because her dad was this big lawyer and she was a model. She got famous off Ray J, honey.
But no,
it's like it got her name out there, but there was no real fame until after.
The tape.
Yeah.
That's what's the skyrocketing factor right there.
But the thing is though, is that ultimately, now Kev, arguably you have a good method, because if you're actually in the best position if you go seeking knowledge with no assumption of the answer. Right.
I assume I know nothing.
Yeah, if you assume you don't know the answer and you just go looking, whatever the answer you're not going to discount anything, or you're not going to selectively filter anything in your brain because you don't have a bias to confirm, right? Mm-hmm. That's arguably the best way to go. I follow
facts.
Yeah.
I find the facts, I go with the facts.
Which my problem is that
like sometimes that's a pain in the ass for me. Like, I'll share a search that I was looking for, and something like, me and my wife were talking about racism the other night, which is totally different topic.
Yeah.
I cannot fathom why somebody is racist towards me for just my color of my skin. And I literally Google searched, why are people racist towards Black people? I found a lot of searches that said it's okay and supported why you should. And I found a lot of but I found the opposite too. The opposite of how Black people are oppressed and how they are the victims. But nobody came to say why.
Interestingly,
feel they're superior.
Because
which is what I asked.
Which is because of good friends that are anthropologists. I actually did have some interesting information on this. We'll talk about that after the podcast, because I feel like
that's something we want to open up here.
Yeah, that's not something we want to open up here.
This isn't the place for it.
Yeah,
but I was using it as just
exactly.
I would do a normal search.
Yeah, you search for something and then you find all the political bullshit that you're
Right,
like,
then
I
that
don't.
really
That's not
is
what I asked.
why people feel that way.
Yeah,
I agree with more the Kev's, entrance into that is probably the better way. The problem I run into is I study crap for the fun of it.
yep.
So do I.
I'm not like, I don't
Yeah.
study, like, I don't get into the argument and then go and research. I've already studied into it once I feel the need to get into the argument because,
Yep.
okay, I have knowledge on this subject, so I'm going to enter into this discussion. And then I start like, well, okay, what if I'm not right on my thinking? Let me find where let me look up where I found my level of thinking and make sure that I'm remembering that correctly. That's what I go
See,
into. And I also, I want to make sure that I find both sides of it. Because like, if I just ran across one little thing and I never followed up on that, but I committed it to memory, then yes, I'm not going to be right. So that's why I have to look these things up when I get into a debate with somebody about, certain subjects.
Yeah, and the fact
right,
that,
as opposed to me, I look at it like, hey, like you guys do it all the time. You guys are bringing some shit in the chat that I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. But I have the world's greatest encyclopedia in my pocket. I Google that shit.
Yep.
And you actually
and I look it up because I say, hey, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
I have so many people that look at me as the encyclopedia. It's like, yes, there's a lot of shit that I know, but there's a lot of time I'm Googling this shit for you when you ask me. Like, I'm doing what you could do.
Yeah,
Let me Google that for you.
I do this at work constantly. I tell people all the time, I work a help desk. I am literally a professional Googler.
There is a website, a troll website is really meant to insult.
Let me Google that for you.
Yeah, let me Google that for you.
They can email me and I'll Google it for them. I'll remote their computer and do exactly what I saw on Google.
Yes.
Debate class.
Let me RDP into your machine. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Yes, Rose. Make debate class mandatory. I think that's. Let's just make a logic, critical thinking class mandatory in fucking schools.
Well, it is. That's what college is for.
I'm talking about in high
class,
school.
though.
High school make critical thinking.
How many people don't go to college?
Here's the thing. The thing is a debate class can actually help at that critical thinking because what thing happens commonly in debate class that does not happen in real world debates? You are arguing over topics that you may not be interested in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
oftentimes
that you to learn that topic a little bit more objectively.
Yes.
Maybe I'm approaching it the wrong way. Here's I guess how I learned critical thinking. I was a high school athlete. That's all sports is. You're making the right decision in the moment. It's critical thinking. Okay, my sport was basketball. If this guy is much bigger than me, how am I going to guard him? How am I going to keep him away from the basket? I play power forward and center. How do I keep him from getting the ball? Thinking about the different positions, the different. There's a lot of logic and thinking. You think about strategizing as you're going.
Well,
you have to critically think about the situation you're in at all times. A lot of it's reaction to. It's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I don't know if a lot of people are smart enough to do these high-level debates that you guys are talking about.
Well, no. The thing is that it's not so much. So here's the thing. You touched on it. Now, ultimately, I think making quick decisions in the moment, like what you're talking about, is more of a tactical thinking, right? You have to think of strategy like, oh, how am I going to guard this taller guy? I have these options available to me. What's the best one to choose in this moment? That's tactical thinking, and that is a skill unto itself. Critical thinking.
Football might even be a better example, even though that's really tactical too.
Yeah, critical thinking is you don't have to be smart to think critically. Critically, as the name criticism, you are looking at everything around you with a certain level of skepticism. Essentially, you do not inherently believe what you're told. You say, it's kind of like, if you talk to a smart scientist, you'll hear one thing. They never talk in absolutes. They'll say, most people do this, or many people will do this. Some people do this. Earlier. They'll never say, everybody does this. Nobody does this. Because the truth is, there will always be exceptions.
That one guy.
Yeah, there's always going to be exceptions.
You're going to find the one guy that does.
Yeah, and the thing is that...
The only thing that are absolutes are the natural laws. Like laws of thermodynamics.
No. The thing is, you talk to a physicist, they'll even tell you that's the information we know at this time.
True.
They will not even
Mhm.
say that that's one of the things
True.
about scientific laws. They're not even immutable. So the kind of the truth is critical thinking is just literally questioning what things you're observing, rather than just observing them and taking them as factual truth as you see them. Instead, you kind of question them and find more information on them. But with that said, I feel like that we should probably start winding things down because obviously, naturally, we're just turn this into a way too damn long podcast as it is. Whatever.
And we go on and on and on and on.
Right. In any case, gaming disorder, cool beans. I'm excited for hopefully that will turn into something good. That
Three
being
Kingdoms
said,
last weekend might have given me a gaming disorder because
yeah,
30 hours.
I'm pretty certain Kev is obsessed with that game. Although, let's talk about Rose and Vermintide 2.
Yes, we can't get her off of Vermintide. Every time I turn on my PC,
She played it
got
last
Vermintide.
week she played it last week for the party stream. She has not shut the game off since.
I think she's still playing it
today.
right now.
Except today,
Yeah.
she was
Yeah,
playing
today.
Stardew Valley. But pretty much previous to that, she went from she
The reason why
literally
she switched over to Stardew Valley is so she could be on the podcast with less distraction.
yeah. So the thing is,
Facts.
she literally was a brand new player last week when we played like level 1 character, all that shit. Pretty certain now she's max level.
I've got Corellin up to 26, and I started leveling somebody else before I start doing stupid, difficult, whatever
So-
third tier
You
is.
need your bots.
I just want to look up her hours real quick. Oh, she has them blocked off. I can't see how many hours she's put in.
She has a private.
Yeah,
Let's put it
I
this way.
keep that stuff private.
Let's.
I've got 53 hours in the past week.
She has done that more than a full-time job, guys. 40 hours in a work week. She's put in 53
she has more
hours.
hours into that game, double the time in that game than I have, and I've had the game for almost a year.
So let's talk about gaming disorder, everyone. No,
I've
I'm just
got
kidding.
22 hours on record in that game.
I think I might have like 15.
I've only ever played the game on stream, except for I think we played it once.
We
off
played
stream.
it once or twice with Major off stream.
Yeah. But yeah, that being said, we're going to get wind down here for the night. In any case, guys, if you are tuning in this week, this is our podcast week. We do a formulation where we stream every Saturday night at 7 p.m. On one week, we do a podcast stream like this where us IT professionals talk about the news and happenings in the gaming industry. And the other week, we have a party stream where we get together and we play some co-op video games. The next week's party stream is going to be Vermintide 2. I almost forgot the fucking name of it. Jesus Christ, we just literally were talking about.
10 seconds, man.
It's really fucking hot in here. If you guys
The
can't
gaming
see the
disorder will
sweat
do that to you,
glistening
sir.
off of me, it's like 95 degrees in this office. It is fucking sweltering. In any case,
Can I borrow your office for a few minutes? Maybe I can sweat off some of this weight.
shit.
I
Anyway,
mean, I've already lost 40 pounds. I can stand to lose another 20.
ugh, that's that keto diet, man.
I haven't touched keto in a couple weeks.
So in any case, yeah. Oh,
I've been to the
okay.
gym.
What about the
So-
Aikido diet?
The app keto diet. So in any case, guys, if this is your first time tuning in, obviously thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week at 7 p.m. Come stop by Saturday night 7 p.m. If you want a different option for how to listen to this podcast, we also upload the audio to all of the major podcast sources, including iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, Breaker, Overcast, Castbox, Podcast, and Republic Radio. For your listening pleasure, you want to listen to us while you're on your drive to work, listen to Kev talk about how glorious the Ryzen house fire is behind him.
Ryzen 1700 Master Race. Paige Sue. Praise Phil Spencer.
I say, don't be gullible, be skeptical, but not cynical.
Razer Master Race.
I'm cynical as fucking hell, guys. I'll be honest. I'm jaded as shit.
That's a hypocritical statement. I am cynical too. I'm nihilistic actually, but
I don't
Yeah.
believe none of y'all motherfuckers.
Yeah. So in any case, though, we're going to get winded down here for the night, so that way I can go jump in a giant vat of ice.
I want to give one more message out there too. Please don't pre-order these new Ryzen CPUs. Wait for reviews.
Don't pre-order
do not
anything.
pre-order, please.
No.
Wait for reviews.
Wait for Ryzen. Ah,
Make AMD
say
early
right
for me, like everyone else.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, don't.
No, Kev's right.
Praise
Guys,
Lisa Sue.
you guys know that mission in Modern Warfare 2? No pre-orders. Guys?
I put that
no-
on PC
no
Master
pre-orders.
and made the front page.
Yep.
It was
No
glorious.
no pre-orders. Remember, no pre-orders.
No pre-orders.
Cock your guns, guys. No pre-orders.
Yeah.
That's right,
God,
no
that
pre-orders.
was that actually came back up. Sorry, random note, guys. Did you guys catch where that actually came back up in a conversation? Someone was talking about some game or something was as controversial as the No Russians mission in Modern Warfare 2, and it wasn't even close. Oh, it was the trailer.
It was the one that Steam didn't put out. There
Yeah.
was a school shooting simulator earlier this year.
No. It was the
everybody was
trailer.
mad at Valve.
It was the trailer for the new Call of Duty, and they were
For Modern
saying,
Warfare?
yeah, the new one. They were saying that because I think it depicted violence on a woman, that it was as bad as the No Russians mission.
I mean, most games depict violence on men, and we don't say shit.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, what's in your pants makes the violence worse now?
violence is violence, no matter where you go, guys. Be good to each other. Don't be violent to each other. Everybody be nice to each other.
Save violence for the video games and
Yes.
make kids peasant.
Don't prove politicians right. Don't.
Praise Lisa Sue. Can't those